So who volunteers to do a tyre change? Idiot. I'm not a professional tyre changer, thank Christ, but we've done it once or twice in the bush, and yeah, we kind of give you more about tips and techniques rather than the official way to do it. If anybody does see me make a mistake and I should be doing something else, please sing out, because obviously I've got to learn, so does everybody else here. A lot of different things you can use for jacking. Obviously the number one thing is your jack. One of the gentlemen just here was just saying, oh, I didn't get one of those jacks with my truck, which is bloody common with the ADF truck coming out of the auctions. We do have obviously the genuine Unimog Jack. It's a Weber Jack. It's exactly the same jack that comes in a brand new Mog. It's the only one that I know of in the market that does it. It's a 14-inch high jack with an 11-inch high lift. The issue with using most other jacks is that when you've got a flat tyre, you'll have to do a double jack. So you'll have to jack it up, then pack it and then jack it again just to get the height to be able to change a wheel successfully. So the simplest and easiest way is to use the genuine Unimog Jack. A few things, obviously we have a jacking block, big hardwood jacking block. Typically that's the proper way to do it, but the more weight you put in the truck, the more chance you are of getting bogged. I generally use LVLs or machined pine, double them up. I've never had one break yet. Breaker bar. So we do recommend a metre long breaker bar. Bearing in mind, it's a metre for a reason. The tightening torques of these particular nuts is 450 Newton meters. 450 Newton meters is only 45 kilos at a metre long, so you don't have to be a He-Man to change the tyre of one of these. These things here, I typically don't carry them around. Definitely safest way to change a tyre, but it doesn't matter where you are in the country, you're going to find these things that are going to do the same job. So trying to find somewhere for these in a motorhome is near impossible, but you're always going to be able to find a block of wood, log, some rocks, somewhere to do exactly the same job. So, and then last but not least, jack handle. The Weber jacks are the smaller ones. They do look a lot skinnier. This is a 10-ton jack, weighs about, I don't know, 30 kilos. Maybe 20, whereas the Weber ones are a lot skinnier, but they're still a 10-ton jack. Nice light little handle, so they're a lot easier to manhandle underneath the truck. So first thing we're going to do, chock our wheels. Obviously we don't have a flat tyre, which makes my job easier. One I've prepared earlier, already at the right height. We're pretty lucky here that we've got a nice hard surface to push off. Quite often out in the desert, you'll want to have about 6 or 8 or 10 decent size, so 250 by maybe 450 blocks of timber, because as you're jacking up, they just keep pushing into the ground. So you want to lay a few big ones down first, then just make it smaller and smaller. Obviously we've got a flat tyre. We're going to lift it up till we've got the tyre still resting on the ground, but enough that we're not going to damage anything when we loosen off the wheel nuts. When we ask everybody what they want to see in a weekend away, I think everybody just wants to see me be punished. So 90% of the people do want to see a wheel change. So I guess it's a good thing to have to learn when somebody else is sweating rather than themselves. But yeah, it's not because I like doing them. Good idea, we use Milwaukee rattle guns at work. You can crack all the nuts off and use your cordless rattle gun, but you never want to rely on your rattle gun to tighten them up. You can just quickly nip them up, but never drive away with your rattle gun wheel nuts. So now we've got them all loose-ish. You can lift the wheel off the ground. Obviously you've got a lot of truck, a lot of weight there. You want to try and get to flat ground to start changing your tyre. If you can't, just do it. You might say I'm going to stuff my tyre, but you're better off stuffing a $1,000 or a $2,000 tyre than be stuck out there and do a lot more damage, or worst case, be stuck under the truck 300 kilometres away from anybody else that can't come and help you. Typically speaking, when you have get a flat tyre, it's not 8 o'clock in the morning with the sun over there and you're in the shade. Coincidentally, this just happened to be the way. You've already been out there busting your ass, swearing and cursing at the hill you've just driven up or the sand dune you can't get over and whatnot. So it's typically not the happiest moment when it happens. So best bet is stand back, have a few breaths, have a drink of water, think about the situation rather than before you jump in and bust your butt and bust other things. So it's not as hard as it looks. I'm making it look pretty easy, but just wiggle the wheel off, slide it out a little bit, lean it over, clears your wheel studs, and away you go. And then you go, oh whoops, and your mate drops the tyre on you. Oh bugger. So can you just lift it up for us, Ralph?
Yeah.
Ralph, you haven't picked it up yet. Okay.
It's heavy.
So basically bend your knees, don't bend your back. Ready? You got this?
Yep.
How'd you go? That was easy, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So they're not, I got it, thank you. They're not hard to do. You really just have to, look out, bend your knees, get underneath it, and you're only picking up, it's 140 kilos, but you're picking up less than half of it. So don't go, oh, it's never going to happen. Getting them off the roof's always fun though. When I've got to tip it off and Rosina's going to catch it, that's the best part of my day. So yeah, putting it back on, just wiggle it in. It's definitely a one-person job. You'll always get your mate, somebody come along and saying, yeah, can I give you a hand? It's actually, you end up just fighting each other. So these 2 bars, you can go and bring other bars with you if you like, but it's just something else you've got to carry. You've already got these in the truck. So wiggle in as much as you can. And you got to use your head here, literally.
What he's doing there is he's lining up the holes with the studs.
So it's definitely not hard if you've got the technique. We got our first Unimog in 2007. I was driving down the highway and I picked it up from Yatla. Thankfully Dad came with me because I couldn't change the gears. As far as I was concerned, the gearbox was knackered. It just turns out I was a shit driver. And anyway, Dad jumped in, he could get through all the gears, not a problem at all. We got to about Helensvale and got a flat tyre. We're both sitting there on the side of the road going, what the hell do we do with this thing? Thankfully, we called a tyre mob and old fella came out, nicest bloke I've ever met, and he showed us all these bars and tricks and whatnot. So I got a crash course on it day one, which was great. Had he have not done that, I probably would have struggled for the first couple of years in learning how to do it, because back then we had, well in 2009 I went to my first owners weekend that Jim Curtin put on down in the Southern Highlands in Sydney, and we had, I think there was 8 trucks there. Some were recreational, some were commercial trucks, but at that time we sat down, I'd known a little bit about Unimogs and spoken to a few people, but Jim had been in the community for a fair while, and we could name on 2 hands the amount of privately owned Unimogs or recreationally used Unimogs in Australia. So getting tips and tricks was impossible. It was really learning how to do it yourself. So as you can see, a rattle gun here would be a lot quicker and easier, but I didn't bring ours. And again, it's just another thing that you've got to carry and have another charger, and not forget the battery charger for your chainsaw and whatnot. But cordless and electric tools have come a long way, and we use electric chainsaws, electric rattle guns. It just saves carrying around that fuel. But the more little gizmos you have, the more things you forget. A minute ago how I had to kick it on, like I'd wound all my nuts in by hand, and these ones were all tight, happy days. If I got a rattle gun here and went, brr, 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 started going around, you would have bent your rim or something, because it wasn't all the way in. And if it's not sitting square and you do it up, okay, even if you torque it up and if it's still jammed, guaranteed the first corner you go around, it'll go clunk and sit into place, and you've got 10 loose wheel nuts. So that's exactly what Phil's getting at. By doing your, whatever you want to call it, star, square, whatever it might be, it's going to ensure it's going to ensure that your wheel is sitting in there flat.
So it's not just a random pattern that he's doing.
Kind of is, because I don't have a very good memory. But yeah. Alrighty, so now that we've got them all nipped up, we can let that jack down. As I said earlier, it's generally not the happiest time of your life when you're out there and covered in mud, pissing rain, or 45 degrees in the middle of the desert. So as you undo something, pull it out, because generally you'll put the truck down, torque your wheels up, throw your torque wrench back in the truck. I'm out of here, this sucks. And you've lost your jack and left it in the sand somewhere. So try and pull it all out so you're not so forgetful. So a lot of people do carry around a torque wrench in their truck. Personally, I don't, because I believe by the time you go down the first corrugated road, it's all going to be out of calibration anyway. Every style of wheel nut and type of wheel is going to have a different torque setting, so consult your owner's manual. If you've got a torque wrench at home, set your wheel nuts up and then you'll be able to gauge it with this to know what that feels like. The worst part of every permanent traveller on the road is doing a tyre change every 10,000 kilometres, because you've got to do that 4 times in a day. We highly recommend with these tyres, whether you've got an old truck or a new truck, every 10,000 kilometres, rotate them, because they will start healing and towing, meaning that you'll get a wear pattern like so, and you'll know as you're driving down the road, it'll just get louder and louder and louder. So rotate your tyres. It'll be noisy for the first 1,000 odd Ks until they start settling out again. If you do that, you'll get a much longer life out of your set of tyres.